Hello and welcome to Deprogrammed with Keri Smith. I'm your host, Keri. Thanks for your patience and me being a little late today. We have another storm. It's been storm season here in Texas, and I have Tiger in my lap again because he's worried. He hates storms, so he's going to sit here with me while this, hopefully, the storm passes through and we keep the electricity. But welcome to Deprogrammed. I didn't want to talk about this subject today because I just felt like this is so dumb and it's so clickbaity and it's just like the worst parts of ourselves. But it's become such a big story that I thought I should spend just a little bit of time on it today. So I'm going to be talking about, I don't know if you saw the thumbnail, but it's called A Tale of Two Racially Divisive Fundraisers. And if you're not on X or Facebook, you may have missed this in the past week. But this was prompted by two different fundraisers for people who I would say are uh, not exactly people of great moral character, and one of them is a murderer, and one of them is a woman who yelled a racial slur at a child, apparently. And no, these are not the same offenses. I'll just get that out, just get that out of the way right up front. There are some people who are trying to say, oh, if you talk about this and you say anything critical about it, or if you compare it in any way, then you're comparing the offenses. No, I'm certainly not. I'm comparing the racial divisiveness, and I'm going to compare that today. And I'm also going to compare the kind of like the worst nature in humans that it's bringing out of some of the supporters of these two different campaigns, and we're just going to take a look at them. So if you're not already aware of what we're talking about the Give Send Go campaigns for Karmelo Anthony. I almost say it backwards every time. Karmelo Anthony, who has been arrested and has now been released on bond for fatally stabbing a fellow high schooler, Austin Metcalf, for killing him at a track meet. And then we're going to look at the Give Send Go phenomenon that's happening around this person named Shiloh Hendrix, who is a mother they've both raised over $500,000 now. And I think there are some similarities that you can look at in this phenomenon. So that's what we're talking about today. Hey guys, good to see some familiar faces in the chat. Therese, give it up for one of our mods, says, you were eating tacos, Keri. No, I'm not. I was not eating tacos. I did make a trip to Buc-ee's in the storm, though. I had to. And then also Texas Sheep Lady says, I loved the video of your kitchen alarm. Yeah, it was funny. My husband he's been working nonstop on a new piano album. It's a beautiful album. It's just piano. And the other night he was trying to record. He had all these different microphones set up, and there was rain. There was a storm happening. There was rain outside, and it was just this beautiful sound coming from his baby grand. And then you could hear all the rain outside. And he was just at this really beautiful part of the song. And meanwhile, I was cooking what I thought I was cooking quietly in the next room, but all of a sudden the oven timer went off, and you can hear it in the recording. He's been trying to take it. It was like so beautiful, like and it's like burr, burr, burr. So I may have messed up that song. We'll see. He's trying to fix it. But it was just a funny bit. Okay. Let's just bring this up in case you're not familiar. Let's start with more of you, I think, are probably familiar with Karmelo Anthony. This is a Texas high schooler, a black Texas high schooler who fatally stabbed another high schooler at a track meet. And I'm just going to share this Give Send Go, which is quite incredible. He killed another Texas high schooler, Austin Metcalf. And the basics of the story, if you are someone who for some reason hasn't heard of it and you don't know what's going on, they were on opposing teams. It was raining at this track meet. He was underneath one of the canopies for a team that was not his team, I guess. And according to witnesses, the basics that it seems like pretty much everyone can agree on is that this Austin Metcalf, who is a white high schooler who was a member of the team whose tent they were under, told him he had to leave, that he shouldn't be there. And he reportedly, Karmelo Anthony said something to the effect of, "Why don't you put hands on me and see what happens?" Sort of this taunt, or kind of what ended up being a very real threat, because according to witnesses, the kid, Austin Metcalf, did pick up his bag, like touched his stuff, like picked up his bag to get him to leave, and he stabbed him to death. He pulled out a knife and stabbed him to death. And the people who are supporting this guy, it's kind of incredible. I have seen some comparisons that I think are incorrect to Kyle Rittenhouse. There are people who are saying, "Well, you guys said Kyle Rittenhouse was acting in self-defense, and you guys said Kyle Rittenhouse, and he was acting in self-defense." Here's the difference. Kyle Rittenhouse was being shot at. There were threats of physical violence, like he shot back. There wasn't. This guy pulled out a knife in what probably it could have been a shove match, I guess, but there was no threat of deadly force. There was no threat of deadly force that he was countering with self-defense. There was no deadly force happening. So I think that argument I don't think it holds water to say this is like Rittenhouse. He pulled out a knife and killed someone for touching his bag. That's not self-defense. You may think that Austin Metcalf was in the wrong for telling me he had to leave and go to his own tent or what have you, and not be at their school tent. You may think he's in the wrong for touching his bag, or for if they got into a shoving match or whatever. But I don't think that you could argue that it is self-defense to use a knife on someone who doesn't present, there's no threat of deadly force. So I think that argument I think it's fallacious. But there is a gifts and go for the family of Austin Metcalf, the kid that he killed, and the father of Austin Metcalf. There's a gifts and go for him, and he's not raised as much money as the killer has. So that was kind of incredible to see. Look at this. He's raised $523,000 as of this broadcast. He's got a goal. They keep increasing the goal. His family, the family of this killer, they keep increasing the goal. Currently, the goal they're trying to meet is 600K. I'm sure when they reach that, they'll make it higher as well. And if you look through the givers, it's a lot of anonymous givers. Okay. It's a lot of anonymous people. There's also some people with their names on it, presumably, but there's a lot of anonymous givers, and there's a lot of racist stuff in the comments of the people who are giving money. I didn't even scroll through to get look. This is just on the first page. Here's one, FUCK crackers. It's like this kind of F crackers. Okay, and if you send them back to the caves, okay, and if you scroll through, there's just a ton of these, like racist. It is successfully, this campaign has successfully been turned into some kind of racist cause that is being marketed to primarily to Black people, and I guess woke white people, as like, hey, get back to get back at white people by donating to this Black murderer. And so there's a ton of this, and it's just a lot of $50, $10 donations. Look at this. Death to all Mayo mutants. That's white people, I presume. That's one of that person gave $10. Death to all white people. Okay. So we saw what happened with this. We saw that it became an impetus, I guess, for some of the most racist people to come out and give money. And I do mean racist against white people, to come out and give money to this accused killer. And it's one of the biggest campaigns I've seen in the news recently. And yeah, Brosenbo says they removed the comments yesterday or the day before on both Karmelo and Shiloh's. So now they're using racist names instead of comments. Oh, thank you for letting me know. Yeah, because there were in the comments lots of racist, like long diatribes and stuff. So I guess they shut down comments and now people are just coming up with racist names. So this is just an interesting phenomenon. And then we have this. This is a lot of people are comparing these two because they happened in close succession, and I guess, and some people view them as some sort of at the beginning of some race war that many people seem to want to happen. Like there seem to be a lot of people who are like, "Hey, let's have a race war." Okay, here, let me bring this up. So this video went viral along with the Give, Send, Go. I don't know about you guys, but I didn't see the video first and then later the Give, Send, Go. I mean, I saw them at pretty much the same time, which is also kind of odd. But this video went viral of this white woman calling a black child the N-word. Now, there are reports that this child is autistic. I don't know that that's been confirmed. There are reports that this child is 5 years old. I don't think that's been confirmed, and it doesn't look to be accurate because you can see the kid in the video at one point. He doesn't look 5, he looks a little older. None of that really matters. It's just, these are some things that people are saying about it that I guess you don't need to add these things that may or may not be true to make it sound worse. Just go with the facts. But here, I'll let you watch what happened.
You called him a nigger, the child?
The fuck you talking
Did you
about?
call the child the nigger word?
None of your fucking business.
It is my own business. You call him a nigger? Okay, why don't you have the boss to say it right now again?
Fuck you, nigger.
Okay.
Nigger.
All right, that's what you say.
You don't go digging through people's shit, you dumb fuck.
Nobody dig into your shit.
A little fucking kid just did, you dumbass.
That little kid, you call him a nigger?
Yeah.
The little child?
What if he acts like one, he's gonna
Are you about to hit him? You chase him here?
He took my son's stuff.
So that gives you the right to call the child, 5-year-old, a nigger, the N-word.
If that's what he's gonna act
That's
like.
what you're gonna call him.
That's what he's gonna act like.
You know, that's a hate speech. And you can be recorded for that.
I don't give a shit.
Huh.
Fuck off.
Okay, we'll see about that, what the internet has to say about you. You call him a...
Okay. So I would hope that we could all agree, and apparently we can't, that that there multiple things can be true at once. That this unsupervised child who went into, according to her, went into her diaper bag and tried to steal something, or went into her son's diaper bag, that is wrong. And first of all, where are his parents? That's a question. Why is he not being supervised? I think we could also hopefully agree that wasn't her best moment. That would be the kind of thing in the past that if you acted out like that, if you let one wrong bring out the wrong in you, if like the monster brought out the monster in you, that you would be ashamed in the past for that to have been caught on tape of you being your worst self and kind of losing a little bit of control. But I don't think we can all agree on the second, because not anymore, because a lot of people saw this as some kind of righteous stance. They saw this woman being a version of herself as something righteous, and they immediately saw it as a way to stand up, to support her and stand up for our people, for white people, I guess. Here, let me just show you what some people are saying about this. This is one of the worst actors on X, in my opinion. I've talked about him before, and we've talked about the woke right. This is Elijah Schaffer, who's just jumped head first into this very woke ideology pushing. He's been telling people recently that white men need to learn racial consciousness, that black people are not American, and worse. He's just going head first into this racial collectivism that's just like the woke left, except rearranging the races. And so he is sort of celebrating here. You can see on screen, he's like, breaking, Shiloh Hendrix has now raised more money on Give, Send, Go than Karmelo Anthony. So see how people are linking this? He's linking this like this is somehow, I don't know, some race racist measuring contest, like who can give more money to someone who doesn't deserve it. Like that's what so he's got the amounts there, and then he says we won. We? Who is we? And he previously was telling people to donate, so I guess that's what he means, he and his followers. No, that's not what he means. He means white people won. Here, because look at this follow-up tweet. He says, this one was for Austin Metcalf. That's the white kid who was murdered. This one was for Austin Metcalf. We did what his father refused to do. Stand up for our people. Our people. It was the right thing to do. We are tired of being abused for noticing. Okay. This is woke. This is woke. Our people, white people, this is what he's talking about. He's saying we need to raise racial collectivism, racial consciousness. And that's what he's doing. You know, excuse me, let me take this down real quick. I don't see a whole lot different from that. There's not a whole lot different from that than the people who are sharing the Karmelo Anthony fundraiser, the murderer, and saying, we need to stand up for our people. That's what they've been doing. They've been saying we need to stand up for our people and give money. We need to stand up for our people. You know who I admire? The people who are not falling for that crap. The many anti-woke speakers, people who put themselves out there, sometimes at great personal cost, who are Black, who don't fall for racial collectivism, who don't push woke crap, and who were calling that fundraiser out for weeks and talking about how this is ridiculous, using racial collectivism to raise money for a murderer. You know, they're not falling for that stuff. And then what's the response of people like Elijah Schaffer is to fall for it, and do it, but do it on the, you know, with a different racial group and say, okay, it's sort of like this idea. I've been seeing this a lot on X where they're like, well, they play the racial collectivism game, so we have to play it. We have to play it. That doesn't make any sense. Collectivism doesn't cure collectivism. Woke doesn't cure woke. Racism doesn't cure racism. It's stupid. That's what the left tried. That's what the woke left said that's what they were doing. They were pushing racism. They've been pushing racism for years under the guise of ending racism. And now you're doing the same thing. I think it's just stupid. Let me show you this. Melissa Chen had a great point. Hold on, I have to bring this one up. I thought I already had it up. You guys know Melissa Chen, sorry. Almost said militia. I've interviewed her in the past. It's been a few years. But this was so interesting to me. Look at this. She's talking about, here it is. She's talking about these two different fundraisers. And if you scroll down, she's retweeting a post from AG Hamilton 29. It's a great account that I follow. I don't know this person personally, but they share a lot of great stuff. And AG pointed out there are so many worthy causes and actual victims who desperately need help. The fact that so many chose to instead give to these causes is strong evidence of moral decline. It's sort of like how the left did turn George Floyd into some sort of moral hero, into a martyr. And many of you guys and were rightfully disgusted by that. I was disgusted by that. And now they've tried to turn Karmelo Anthony, this murderer, into a martyr. And so the response is like, okay, we're going to turn this random white lady into a martyr, into a hero. And so AG's right. There are so many worthy causes and actual victims that you could be championing, but no, let's just play to the worst impulses. Let's do that, right? So this is the interesting tweet that Melissa had that I read. Melissa said, look, many of these donors are anonymous. Yeah, they are. And then she says, this seems like a very small price to pay for activists and foreign actors to gin up an imaginary race war that they could then turn into a real one. Their preferred NGOs that have been sowing racially divisive sentiment in the US for decades are now all defunded by Doge. So what other levers do they have? Think. Great post. Very thought-provoking. There's no evidence of this. There's no evidence there's foreign actors, whatever. She's just asking you to think. And so I said, here, let me share this with you because this is what it made me think about. And you guys may not remember this. I said, Melissa's instincts seem right to me. Many seem to have forgotten, or maybe they never knew, that the Russians and probably other foreign entities we don't even know about organized opposing rallies and protests in the US during the 2016 election. They did. They organized these opposing rallies. And I didn't mention here in the tweet, but a lot of them invoked racial collectivism as well, trying to start like this, trying to play on existing racial tensions, blow them up, and, you know, like she says, make racial division more popular in the US to throw gasoline on a fire, right? So I continued. I said, the woke corporate media didn't really report much on this, or when they did, they pretended that it was just pro-Trump rallies, and they tried to use it to gin up belief in their fake Russian collusion narrative about Trump. And that was true. Most of the time when I saw the talking heads in the media report on this fact that we knew that there were Russians who started all these opposing Facebook events, and they turned into real events, and they started these opposing rallies and protests, that when the media reported on it, they tried to make it seem like it was just pro-Trump rallies and protests. It wasn't. What they really did was much more interesting. So I continued. In actuality, what was found was that they organized conflicting rallies, like Muslims for Hillary, and then in the same city, they would organize a Down with Hillary protest. The obvious goal being to feed a growing hatred and division in our country and to pull unwitting Americans into this hateful place. Some of the rallies they organized were very large. Michael Moore even attended the Charlotte against Trump one in North Carolina that drew 25,000 people. If you don't remember this, here's just one article below, and I'm gonna share this with you in it. And I close this tweet just by saying, most people falsely believe they can't be fooled or manipulated and used. I think this is true, because even in the comments on this, I saw people saying, you know, it's a good thing. It doesn't matter. It's a good thing if that the Shiloh Hendrix GoFundMe is getting as much money as the Karma. These are all good things. Do you think these are good things? Either of them? I don't. So here, I'm going to open this. This is just one article in case you, oh no, they stopped my access to this one. Okay, let me just take this down. I'll find another one. It's so funny because I was able to read this yesterday. Do you guys remember this? Does anybody else remember this? Michael Moore went to one of the big ones. Okay. Here we go. So this is the article I wanted to show you. Let me open it. Russian trolls orchestrated divisive protests in the US about Trump. Here are 9 that we know about. And not just Trump, even this headline. Do you see what I'm saying? It was like Trump and Hillary. The point is they were politically divisive opposing rallies, and they were racially divisive opposing rallies in some cases. And they got real Americans to click, yes, I'm going to this. They got real Americans to fall for it and to go out to these protests that these Russian trolls organized. They got Michael Moore to fall for it and be a part of one of these. So last week, this is an article, by the way, from February of 2018. Last week, Special Counsel Robert Mueller's office charged 3 Russian entities and 13 Russian nationals with, quote, violating U.S. criminal laws in order to interfere with U.S. elections and political processes. The indictment revealed for the first time the extent to which Russians tried to sow political discourse in the U.S. in the run-up to the 2016 presidential election. I think they mean discord, not discourse, but they tried to sow political discord. The Russians weaponized social media to organize political rallies, both in support of and against certain candidates, according to the indictment. Although the Russians organized some rallies in opposition to Trump's candidacy, most were supportive. See, again, they're trying to make it seem like it was mostly a pro-Trump thing. Well, look at the ones they highlight. There's a lot of anti-Trump ones they did. The story here is that it was not this was not a pro-Trump psyop. This was a let's divide America psyop. That's what it was. Quote, to conceal the fact that they were based in Russia, defendants and their co-conspirators promoted these rallies while pretending to be U.S. grassroots activists who were located in the United States but unable to meet or participate in person, Mueller's indictment read. The rallies, which began in June 2016, took place both before and after the 2016 election. So after the election, when there was all this craziness, like leftists in the streets, rioting, burning things down, protesting, having an insurrection, if you will, after Trump won, they were a part of this too. They were organizing some of these riots and rallies, these anti-Trump rallies. The rallies, which began in June of 2016, took place both before and after the 2016 election. Okay, here are 3 examples of rallies organized by the Russians as described in the indictment. June 25th, 2016 in New York. The Russians used a Facebook group called Being Patriotic and the Twitter account called March for Trump and other social media accounts to organize a pro-Trump rally in New York called March for Trump. To promote the rally, the Russians purchased ads on Facebook and privately messaged people, encouraging them to participate, even offering to reimburse some of their traveling expenses. They also solicited support from a volunteer for the Trump campaign in New York who agreed to supply the rally goers with signs. So it's like they got real Americans involved in it, right? Here's another one, July 9th, 2016, Washington, D.C. Around June of 2016, the Russians started using another Facebook group called United Muslims of America to promote an upcoming rally in D.C. called Support Hillary, Save American Muslims. During that rally, they allegedly paid a real American to hold a sign portraying Clinton alongside a quote, I think Sharia law will be a powerful new direction of freedom. They're do you see? They're trolling. They're just putting out the bait and trolling people in to be like, I knew it. I knew these crazy left. Like they take something. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but they take it and they throw gasoline on it. They love it. They love this divisiveness. They love that woke exploded like it did. What foreign adversaries wouldn't? Like I said, we know about the Russians. I'm sure there were others. Here's another one, July 23rd, 2016 in New York. A couple weeks later, okay, so right after they organized this one called Muslims for Hillary, right? Then they organized an anti-Hillary one. A couple weeks later, the Russians organized a rally similar to the protest in June, but this one was called Down with Hillary. They used many of the same techniques to spread the word about the rally, including buying ads on social media, contacting grassroots organizations, and communicating with unwitting Trump campaign volunteers. Here's another one in Florida, August 20th, 2016 in Florida. Later that summer, the Russians extended their operations into Florida, a critical battleground state in U.S. elections. Using tactics similar to those they employed in New York, the Russians bought ads on Facebook and Instagram to promote a series of pro-Trump rallies that they dubbed Florida Goes Trump. They coordinated with Trump campaign staff who were unaware they were working with Russians to organize the rallies, and they paid real Americans to perform specific tasks during the protests. In one instance, according to the indictment, the Russians asked certain individuals to, quote, build a cage on a flatbed truck and another U.S. person to wear a costume portraying Clinton in a prison uniform. So again, they're playing on already existing tensions and memes, right? Like they're heightening it. They're exaggerating, they're adding to it. And again, what does this do? It's trolling, it's bait. It's bait for the leftists because they see this and they're like, look at these crazy conservatives. They have a cage on a flatbed truck, you know? It's just they want us each to be caricatures. They want us each to be the worst versions of ourselves. Look, more rallies in New York and Pennsylvania. Throughout the rest of the campaign cycle, the Russians continued organizing rallies, mirroring previous ones staged in New York and Florida. They communicated with unwitting Trump campaign volunteers, promoted the rallies on social media, and paid individuals to perform certain tasks. Here's one of the big anti-Trump ones they organized. This one was in New York and North Carolina, November 12th through the 19th, 2016, New York and North Carolina. And you can see this picture of the North Carolina one. Look at who's right in the center there. Michael Moore. I'm sorry, he was at the New York one. I thought he was at the North Carolina. He was at the New York one. That's him right in the center. Michael Moore, a left-leaning documentary filmmaker, attended this anti-Trump rally in New York on November 12th. The event was allegedly organized by the Russians, according to the indictment. Russian interference didn't end with Trump's election victory. Shortly after the November vote, the Russians helped to organize several pro-Trump rallies at the same time that they were organizing anti-Trump protests. Conflicting, right? Calling on people to object to the election results. They were throwing gasoline on that fire. On November 12th, the Russians helped to coordinate an anti-Trump rally that drew as many as 25,000 people. Fox News reported that Michael Moore, the prominent documentary filmmaker who strongly opposes Trump, he attended that rally. He fell for it. About a week later, the Russians organized a protest called Charlotte Against Trump in North Carolina. These rallies represented just a fraction of the dozens of other rallies that took place in cities across the U.S. after Trump's victory. How many of these were AstroTurf like this, right? Many more possible Russian rallies. Here's a woman beating up a piñata of Trump. The Russians were also allegedly responsible for organizing other rallies throughout the 2016 campaign, although these were not outlined in Mueller's indictment. According to the New York Times, a group of about a dozen protesters in Houston, Texas, met to protest, quote, the threat of radical Islam in May of 2016. That group was met with dozens of counter-protesters, drawing a large local police presence. Both of these groups, pro-radical Islam, anti-radical Islam, both of them were organized by the Russians. I'm laughing because you have to laugh, because if you don't, this is just so dark. We do live in a dystopia. And it's not just the Russian. Our government does crap like this all the time. We know that they interfere in elections in other countries. We know that they stage coups, orange revolutions. We know this. And they do this here. Subterfuge, right? It made me think of, let me take this down for a second. It made me think of Yuri Bezmenov. And he's been relevant again for the past, I would say, 10 years as woke started to spread. Yuri Bezmenov, I've covered him several times before, but it's been a while since I've shown one of his videos. And if you're not familiar with him, Yuri Bezmenov is a former KGB agent who, in the 80s, did a series of interviews where he basically was a turncoat. He was a former KGB agent, and he stepped forward and basically did a series of interviews where he told some of the tactics that the Russian government was using in the US. And he very famously talked about how you don't need to physically invade another country that you're enemies with if you can have them destroy themselves from the inside. And he talked about these different stages of doing this, of this foreign interference and subversion. And he talked about ideological capture of our institutions. And a lot of what he said, you can see, bore fruit. He was proven right when woke ideology left the institutions, the academic institutions, and went mainstream and infected. This woke virus infected all of our institutions, not just academia. It left academia and it spread to the government, to the media, to entertainment, to hobby groups, to K through 12 education. And he talked a lot about ideological subversion and demoralization, making a country hate itself, brainwashing the young people of our country to hate America, brainwashing young white men to hate themselves, to go along with this woke ideology that's very sexist towards men and racist towards white people. He talked about ideological subversion, and he talked about division, like destroying a country from the inside. So I want to play this because whenever I see something crazy taking off, like these two competing gifts and goes of Karmelo Anthony and Shiloh Hendrix, do I believe that there are real Americans donating to this? Yes, I do. Absolutely. There are real Americans like Elijah Schaffer, woke right influencers who are promoting it even to their followers. But do I also think that there's a possibility of foreign interference, that there might be some money coming in from who knows who, foreign entities who want to destroy America from the inside and throw gasoline on the fire, just like they did in the 2016 elections, organizing competing protests and rallies on social media? Yeah, I do. I think it's very likely. I think it's possible. And I don't want to be a part of something. I don't want to be duped. So I try to keep my eyes open because I know I'm capable of being manipulated. We all are. And so I just kind of try and be, what does the Bible say? Slow to speak, slow to anger. I don't want to be some puppet for who knows who. Here, we're going to watch this. This is just a short part of Yuri Bezmenov. Maybe you're someone who's never heard him before, and it's going to blow your mind. This specific interview is from 1984.
Well, you spoke several times before about ideological subversion. That is a phrase that I'm afraid some Americans don't fully understand. When the Soviets used the phrase ideological subversion, what do they mean by it?
Ideological subversion is the process which is legitimate, overt, and open. You can see it with your own eyes. All you have to do, all American mass media has to do, is to unplug their bananas from their ears, open up their eyes, and they can see it. There's no mystery. There's nothing to do with espionage. I know that espionage intelligence gathering looks more romantic. It sells more deodorants through the advertising, probably. That's why your Hollywood producers are so crazy about James Bond type of thrillers. But in reality, the main emphasis of the KGB is not in the area of intelligence at all. According to my opinion and opinion of many defectors of my caliber, only about 15% of time, money, and manpower is spent on espionage as such. The other 85% is a slow process, which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students.
This part, it just blew my mind the first time I heard this because it so accurately describes. He says it takes about 15 to 20 years for demoralization for the first stage of ideological subversion, because that's how long it takes to completely brainwash one generation. And our younger generation has been completely brainwashed with woke ideology. They have been told that the best way to view the world is as this identity Marxist place where different identity groups are competing for power, and we should judge other people based on what racial group they are, what sex they are, what identity group they are, and that we should all, clump together with our people, our race, or our sex, and we should, find our identity in our immutable characteristics. Like, this is what they've been brainwashed with. And so it's no surprise that the so-called woke right, they bought into it. They bought into it. All they are doing is now saying, okay, we accept your premise. We accept your premise, but we're going to put our groups at the top. You guys are putting your groups at the top. We're putting our groups at the top. Two cheeks of the same ass. That's what somebody told me on X. I love that expression. Two cheeks of the same arse, they said. Somebody, I highlighted a comment. Dan, I think it was Dan, who said woke right is bad phrasing. I've talked about that before. I initially agreed for a long time. I talked about why I didn't like the phrase, but I've turned around on it. I warmed up to it because I think it does. They are definitely woke. Now, whether or not they're legitimately on the right is up for debate. I don't think they're true conservatives at all because they are woke. They've bought into woke, but they present themselves as being on the right. People like Elijah Schaffer, Candace Owens, like, they present themselves as being on the right. And the people who are following them, the sheep who are buying into this stuff, who are being influenced and who are speaking this woke nonsense, think they're on the right. Even if they're speaking woke ideology. It's kind of similar to the left. What happened to the left? Woke ideology is not liberal. It's illiberal. I've spent the last 8 years trying to talk about that to people in the woke cult, trying to show them this is not people who think they're liberals and say they're liberals and then they push woke stuff. I'm like, that's not, it's decidedly illiberal. It's based on racial collectivism, okay? Not individualism. It's censorious. It's authoritarian. None of these things that the characteristics of woke are not liberal characteristics. Woke is not authoritarian. It's not racially collectivist. It's not identity collectivist. Liberalism is not for censorship. Sorry, I think I misspoke a second ago. Liberalism is not authoritarian. Liberalism is not for censorship. Liberalism is not for racial collectivism. Taking from one group and giving to another group, that sort of stuff. Liberalism is not for that. And so I've been spending the past 8 years with this show, Deprogrammed, and with the kinds of stuff I write or share on socials. Like, in part, a big part of my life has been trying to talk to people who are still in that leftist woke cult that I was in, and explain to them, like, because I know some of them think it's liberalism. It's not. Like, you've been duped. And you are being used as a puppet to spread woke. And what's funny is I'm seeing the same thing is starting to happen on the right. There are people who think they are conservatives, just like there's woke people who think they're liberals. They think they're conservatives while they're pushing racial collectivism, authoritarianism, censorship, fascism. Some of them openly now say they're fascists. That's not conservatism. Some of them now openly say we need to get rid of the Constitution, just like the woke left does. It's because they're pushing woke. None of that's conservative. And it's starting to happen again. And so it's kind of it makes sense if you think about it, why woke right is on the rise. I mean, I understand why. Because we have a whole generation of young people who were brainwashed, who were raised in this woke world that tells them your identity is found in your race and your sex and your sexuality and all these identity groups. They were raised in this racially collectivist world. They were raised with woke ideology being the dominant religion, this misguided, evil, backwards woke ideology. And they haven't rejected woke. They've accepted it. What they're doing is saying, okay, we're going along with you guys, but we're gonna, yeah, you're right about all that, except the thing you're wrong about is our identity groups are at the top. You're right. I agree with all your premises, and now we're gonna have a race war because, it can't be avoided. Yeah, I am still going with it, Codex, because I haven't found a better term that describes it as well. They are woke, and they hate it. They hate it just like the woke left. They hate being called that, but that's because it's accurate. They are woke. Like I said, I don't think they're actually conservatives. That's sometimes I put the right part in quotes, woke right, Okay, so here we go. Let's continue with this. He's talking about it takes about 15 to 20 years for this ideological subversion, for the demoralization to brainwash a whole generation. I'm going to back it up just a little bit.
As a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. The result you can see. Most of the people who graduated in the 60s, dropouts or half-baked intellectuals, are now occupying the positions of power in the government, civil service, business, mass media, educational system. You are stuck with them. You cannot get rid of them. They are contaminated. They are programmed to think and react to certain stimuli in a certain pattern. You cannot change their mind, even if you expose them to authentic information, even if you prove that white is white and black is black, you still cannot change the basic perception and the logic of behavior. In other words, these people, the process of demoralization is complete and irreversible. To get rid society of these people, you need another 20 or 15 years to educate a new generation of patriotically minded and common sense people who would be acting in favor and in the interests of the United States society.
And yet these people who've been programmed and, as you say, in place, and
Yes.
who are favorable to an opening with the Soviet concept, these are the very people who would be marked for extermination in this country?
Most of them, yes. Simply because the psychological shock when they will see in future what the beautiful society of equality and social justice means in practice, obviously they will revolt. They will be very unhappy, frustrated people. And the Marxist-Leninist regime does not tolerate these people. They will join the links of dissenters, dissidents. Unlike in present United States, there will be no place for dissent in future Marxist-Leninist America. Here you can get popular like Daniel Ellsberg and filthy rich like Jane Fonda for being dissident, for criticizing your Pentagon. In future, these people will be simply squashed like cockroaches. Nobody is going to pay them nothing for their beautiful, noble ideas of equality. This they don't understand, and it will be greatest shock for them, of course. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. For the last 25 years, actually it's overfulfilled, because demoralization now reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he is going to receive a kick in his fat bottom. When a military boot crashes then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation of demoralization. So basically, America is stuck with demoralization, and unless, even if you start right now, here, this minute, you start educating new generation of Americans, it will still take you 15 to 20 years to turn the tide of ideological perception of reality back to normalcy and patriotism. The next stage is destabilization. This time, subverter does not care about your idea.
Let me before he talks about destabilization, because first he talked about demoralization, which that's already been completed. We've raised a whole generation in woke ideology. Okay. Hey, what's up? K-Dub is here. All things theology. Hey, K-Dub. So we've already gone through the demoralization stage. The young people have already been raised in a woke world, a woke society, where woke is the dominant faith, the dominant religion. They've been indoctrinated with it. It infected all of our institutions. It holds so much power in our country and in all of the West. And they've already been raised in that, which again is why it makes sense to me that now there's this growing woke right contingent, because they were raised in a world that told them everyone is a racial collectivist. You have to be a racial collectivist. You can't be an individualist. You know, it's a racially collectivist world. Identity Marxism is the way to go. That's the world they were raised in. And it doesn't, to me, a young person that's on the woke right or the woke left, there's not much difference. All they're doing is rearranging the identity groups, but they've both bought into that premise. And that's because that's what they were fed. This is the way the world is. You should see, I'm going to show you some of their responses to me. That's what they say. They say, well, the left is like that and other races are like that, so we have to be like that. That's how we're going to win. That's how we're going to win, is we all become racially collectivist. That doesn't even make any sense. That's how we win? That's how you stop? So you're saying you disagree with the woke left, and the way you're going to beat them is you're going to become just like them. And that's how we beat them? Okay. You don't really disagree with what they're fundamentally saying then at all. Why were you ever against woke? Only because it put your identity groups at the bottom, not because you fundamentally thought racial collectivism was wrong, not because you were fundamentally an individualist, not because you were against authoritarianism. You think authoritarianism is great. It's just that you want your groups to be in charge. You're for fascism. Some of you are saying that. So you never disagree with woke at all. You just wanted to rearrange the identity groups. It's like, I know people, again, and some people don't like the phrase woke right. I didn't like it for a long time, but I was kind of laughing yesterday because I was thinking it's like woke white. It's basically people in my comments. It's like, they're sort of they're like, it's like new and improved woke, but for white people. Like, they're like, this is great. Look at this here. This is just one of them. I'll share this one. This guy, I get comments like this all the time now from woke right people or woke white people, right? Whatever you want to call them. He says white consciousness. Look at the woke word there, consciousness. Again, you've got these woke creators like Elijah Schaffer who are saying we need to all learn racial consciousness. That's a woke idea. They're pushing woke stuff like racial consciousness, awaken to your true nature as a member of a racial identity, not being the most important thing about you, right? So this guy says it. He's learning it. This guy, he's learning this. He supports it. He's one of the followers, one of the sheep. He says white consciousness and solidarity isn't woke. It's the rejection of wokeism. Wrong. I just said no, it's woke. I'm just so tired. I've argued with these people been more eloquent before, and I did a little bit in the comments explain, but it's just, no, it's You're just flipping it. That's all you're doing. It's actually, you are embracing the very definition of woke. You got it right there in your tweet, dude. You're like, white consciousness, like black consciousness. They got black consciousness. Now we got white consciousness. We're going to defeat woke. No, you're not. You're both going to lose. You're going to lose. And, you know, woke almost destroyed our country, and you're going to ensure that it does. Now that we have it on the back foot, culturally, we've gained enough power. We've gained enough that we helped put Trump in office, anti-woke people. And now that we've done that and we finally got woke on the back foot, you guys are like, no, let's get more woke. You know what woke needs? More woke. White woke. Yeah, exactly. All things theology. Woke was almost dead, and here they come. That's why I kind of put right in quotes when I say woke, right? Because these woke people are all on the same team. They need each other. They're all on the same team. They're trying to resuscitate woke, but for whites. Okay, that's stupid. Do you think that's not going to result in, it's like, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So I understand that this is a reaction to woke on the left. I get it. Woke on the left, which puts black people at the top, you know, women at the top, trans at the top, all that. This is a reaction to that. And it says, okay, we accept all of your premises. We're playing the same board game, but we're going to put white people at the top and men at the top. You're all playing the same stupid game. And you think that this reaction's not going to then do the same and spur a reaction over there? They're going to get more woke left. We have them on the back foot, and you're going to give them power. You're giving them the boogeyman they want. You guys, that's why I say you guys need each other. They need you. They've been trying to sell a lie for 10 years or more now that all conservatives are essentially woke right. They try to sell this lie that conservatives are all fascists. No. That conservatives are authoritarians. No. That conservatives are for censorship. No. They try to sell this lie that conservatives are all racist. No. And then you guys, the woke right, emerges now that we finally have them on the back foot, and you're like, yeah, we are. You're like, we are. We're some of you guys even say you're fascist. You're like, yeah, we're here. We're the boogeyman you ordered. Did somebody call for a boogeyman? Here we are. And you can use us to tar all conservatives and all people on the right and all classical liberals and all libertarians and everyone who voted for Trump. You can use us, this fringe woke ideology. You can use us. And they're like, great. Woke left is like, great. These two sides, woke left and woke right, they don't fight each other. They help each other grow. They help each other by being the boogeyman for each other. That's what it is. That's what's happening. Okay. Let me just thank a couple people real quick. Super Based, you are awesome. Super Base is one of the biggest supporters of Deprogrammed. I really appreciate you being here. Been a member for 10 months and says, thank you for fighting the good fight. God bless. God bless you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Super Base also gifted 20 Deprogrammed memberships. So if you got one of those, tell them thanks. Thank you so much. So generous. Okay, let me show you one other thing. Well, we didn't cover. We looked at Karmelo Anthony's Give Send Go. Let's look at the Give Send Go for Shiloh. We saw the video, so here's where she's at now. We looked at Elijah Schaefer promoting it and saying somehow it's a win for Anthony Metcalf. He uses this dead kid who was murdered and says giving over $500,000 to this random woman who said the N-word is like somehow a victory for that dead guy. What? And then he says it's a victory for our people, meaning white people, sounding very much like a woke person. very much like the woke black people who are saying if you donate to Karmelo Anthony, that's a victory for our people. He's doing the same thing. So here's her. She, like the Karmelo Anthony fundraiser, keeps meeting her goal and keeps increasing it, just like them. She is now at, currently as the time of this broadcast, she's at $668,000 raised and has increased her goal to $1 million. So, you know, it's a victory for our people. This is kind of incredible. These two, a tale of two racially divisive fundraisers. It's kind of incredible. I want to show you something else. So this is Dom Lucra. I don't know how you say it. A lot of you guys follow him. I'm sure he's got a lot of followers. I think I unfollowed him at some point because anyway, it doesn't matter. I just thought this was interesting what he says here. He says, over the past 9 days, I have watched almost every black person, I guess, that voted for Trump say that they regret it because of the optics that appeared after that white woman called a child the N-word. Imagine spending 4 years fighting for Trump just to watch it get undone by bitter people on Twitter. So yeah, I'm pissed. I'm hurt and I'm betrayed. I spent the last 4 years of my life trying to convince my kind. I don't even like that phrasing, but okay. Trying to convince black people is what he means, to join this party. Many of us did, and it worked. I can't express the pain of watching all this get undone in a week. I'm crashing out because I'm passionate. I'm crashing out because I fear that we are about to get dominated in the midterms now. I'm so tired of us losing because of the reactions of a few. I'm so tired of the simulation. I don't always agree with this guy. I think he's posted some very questionable stuff in the past. That's why I've unfollowed him. But what he's talking about here is one of the things I fear happening, and other people do as well. Here, let me show you this. My friend, Chalkboard Heresy, Frank McCormick. Speaking of people who are deserving, Frank McCormick is a teacher who lost his job because he refused to teach woke ideology in the classroom. And he was pushed out of it. It was a very public war that happened, and he had integrity and refused to step down and fought it out with them. I think, well, he refused to teach what they wanted and was forced to step down. There's tons of stories like this. People who've lost their jobs for refusing to go along with woke. And he's just one of them. So, you know, if you want to talk about a noble hero, there's lots of them. Why are we making celebrities out of murderers and impulsive adults because they shared their worst moment or a worse version of themselves on camera? I just don't get it. Anyway, so here's Frank. So he says, he shares the fact that this campaign, the Shiloh Hendrix campaign, is raising so much money. He says the optics are awful. They will tie this to MAGA. Most Americans will be disgusted by this, and there will be electoral consequences. This is not based. It's retarded. I agree with Frank. You think the woke left isn't going to use this? Again, like I said, they spent the past 10 years or more trying to say all conservatives secretly just want to use racial slurs. That's like their dream or whatever. I don't care. But of course, this has already been used against me. I was in an argument with some idiots on Facebook yesterday, a bunch of leftists. And they say all the usual things they always say about a Trump voter. You're a maggot, you're this, you're whatever. And then one of them goes, you're the kind that's giving money to that white woman who said the N-word. I was like, actually, I mean, everything they say is a lie, right? But I was like, no, I actually think it's kind of dumb. I've actually talked about it a little bit. I'm going to talk about it in a show. It doesn't matter to them, of course. All Trump voters do this, right? All maggots do this. Of course they're going to use it. Of course. Of course. And this idiot, I don't follow this guy anymore either. Sorry. I'm at the point where I feel like I told you, we've been going through a great unveiling, unmasking, where God is showing, I think, people's true nature. And so I have unfollowed a bunch of people I used to support. I'm just kind of like, no. If I don't think you're of upstanding character does matter to me, then no. So this guy, who's just lately, I think, got some of the most backwards stuff that he's putting out. He says, Viva Frey, whatever. He says, nobody in their right mind would try to tie this to MAGA. What? Of course they would. What an opportunity. Of course they would. He says, in fact, the only person seemingly even trying to tie MAGA is you. Bullshit. Look at this. Let me show you this. Billboard Chris, great guy. Billboard Chris, he shared a video. They've already got, look, this is a psyop. They've already got masked people out who look like Antifa, pretending to be conservative MAGA, and they're chanting. Listen to what Billboard Chris says. This was in Toronto? Not a chance this is legit. This is 100% an op. Right-wingers don't dress like Antifa, chanting Shiloh Hendrix did nothing wrong. That's what they're saying. That's the white woman who raised all this money for saying the N-word. He goes, did Canada recruit Democrat operatives from down south? Look, you think we're not going to start seeing all this kind of course they're going to use it. Duh. What planet are you on? Let me show you this video. This is crazy. And of course they're running with it. They're like, look at all these racist MAGAs.
Shiloh Hendrix!
And here's what they're doing. They're trying to tie it to mass deportations, which I want, which MAGA wants, right? And so they're trying to say, look, mass deportations are racist. They're not. And they're trying to say, look, mass deportations and people that support Shiloh Hendrix are all the same. No. Look, it's so on the nose. It's so on the nose. Look at their signs. They've got a sign here that says DEI is how nations die. It is. Woke is how nations die. Woke left or woke right. Doesn't matter. It's all woke. It is how nations die. That's true. They got another sign that says that's in support of mass deportations, which, yes, I'm in support of mass deportations too. So they got these truthful things that most of us in the chat probably agree with. And then they're saying this bad optics thing, right? Shiloh Hendrix did nothing. What serious person is using this as a rallying cry? What serious person? Why wouldn't you be doing chants about deportations? Why wouldn't you be doing chants about DEI? No, you're going to do it about this. Why? Because this gives them all the ammo they need.
Shiloh Hendrix! Did nothing wrong! 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 Shiloh Hendrix! Did nothing wrong!
Did these look like any conservatives you know? I'm just laughing because it's the woke left who have been completely brainwashed, and many of whom still think they're liberals and they're not. They look at this and they believe it because this is what they've been told. This is the boogeyman that's out there, right? This is what MAGA is. This is what conservatives are. Oh my gosh. Yes, Dan, paid actors for sure. For sure. So I think this idea that, Viva Frey and others are saying, like, they're not going to use it. Of course they're going to use this. And the woke right is playing, people like Elijah Schaffer playing right into their hands. They're like, here, use this. Use this to tar mass deportations. Use this to tar critiques of DEI. Use this to tar it, to try and stop it. Right? To try and stop mass deportation. It's just so stupid. It's so stupid. I think a lot of people will follow along with this. I mean, I get it. You want to be a part of something. That's why these kind of psyops work. We started this video, for those of you who got here late, we looked at in the 2016 election, we looked at how there were indictments that came out about Russians who had been organizing competitive protests and rallies, like pro-Hillary, Muslims for Hillary, and like down with Hillary in the same city, like pro-Trump and anti-Trump in the same city. They organized all these rallies and protests. They started all these fake Facebook groups. They pretended to be Americans, and they got real Americans to go to these things. And they told them, they paid some of these real Americans, do this, do that, wear this, put Hillary in a cage, like they inflamed the division. And just think about it. Melissa Chen, who said, all she said is like, just think about it. Don't you think this would be wise money? A lot of those donations to the Karmelo Anthony Gives and Go and the Shiloh Hendrix Gives and Go, a lot of them are anonymous. Like, why wouldn't a foreign entity spend peanuts to boost this and make it huge? And then what happens? Real people get involved. I get it. Real people, woke people on the left and woke people on the right. And I'm like, you've got influencers like Elijah Schaefer saying, stand with our people. And then real people get involved and they start donating money. They want to be a part of something. And their influencers are saying, this is how we fight back. This is how we win. What? What did we win? You're making things worse. You're giving them ammo to go out and attack DEI and deportations. Why would you do that? Why would you be a part of this? We need to be more discerning. That's all. We need to be more skeptical. We need to admit and acknowledge that any of us could be played. We could be played. We can be used and manipulated. Let me show you this woke left grifter who's already using this. Of course he is. He loves it. He loves it. This is Ibram X. Kendi. That disgusting grifter, woke left grifter. Here's what he's telling his followers, his sheep who follow the woke left. He's got it up here. Of course, they're not ignoring this. All these woke left people, they love it. They love that this is happening. Again, they need each other. So here he is sharing the Shiloh Hendrix video. And all of his commenters are saying the kind of stuff you would think that they're saying. Identifying this as like, this is what conservatives are. This is what MAGA is. It's not. It's not. This should never have become this huge story. But it is. And here I am talking about it now because it got to be so big. I was like, I really hope this doesn't become a huge thing in the press. And yeah, it's a big thing in the press now. And now they've got fake conservatives dressed like Antifa. Shiloh Hendrix did nothing wrong. It's like this psyop is just getting bigger and bigger. And now you've got a bunch of these woke right people, influencers, doing videos. I don't have these pulled up, but you can go and look. They're all doing videos like, are we headed for a racial war? Like they're excited about it. And you think the woke left and the woke right aren't both excited about that more racial division? Of course they are. Bros and bros, this story blew up fast. It did, right? Just like Melissa Chen said, think. We need to think. What are we getting unintentionally roped into? What kinds of things are we seeing in our feed and why? Where are they coming from? We have to be just as discerning about powerful influencers in the new media as we are about powerful old media talking heads. We understand. It's so weird. It's like, so those of us who are not on the woke left, like we understand that the corporate media lies, that it's full on propaganda, that it's like the worst, most powerful propaganda out there, that it's the enemy of the American people. Yes, all of that is true. But it's almost like a lot of us have been conditioned to just give a pass to new media, which is now rightfully beating old media's butt, which is great. I'm very happy about it. I'm happy Trump is bringing new media into his press conferences. I love it. But we have to be just as discerning about the new media. And the flip is true for those on the woke left. The woke left, they trust the corporate institutions. that brainwash the brainwashers, like they trust them. They don't have any discernment about it at all. Oh, but they're very discerning when it comes to who? Woke, right? New media, powerful new media info. Like they're very discerning. They're very much like, those guys lie. Those guys are bad. Don't get pulled into a cult. That's just like, let's not. I've had so many people, as I said, pushing this woke right stuff, whether you like the phrase or not. I've had so many people pushing this in my feed, like people arguing with me, and these are followers. These are probably sincere believers. Like they are sincerely buying into this stuff. Let me share this one again because I want to show you something. Like this guy, white consciousness and solidarity. Okay, it's you just a mirror image of black consciousness and solidarity. I'm getting so much of this kind of stuff, and I just want to. I would sometimes I'm just irritated by it. Obviously, I will just like mute these people. But other times, maybe when I'm more open to God, like using me, or I don't know, maybe when I'm more less my nature and more prayerful, I just feel sorry for them. Like I genuinely do. That's not a trying to be sarcastic or put them down. I really do. I'm like, I feel sorry for them the way that I sometimes feel. I'm sometimes able to feel for woke left people. I view them as like misguided, and I understand why they were easily caught up in this. I understand why it's appealing, just like I get why some of it's appealing in the woke left. I get it. And I just want to figure out the right words to help explain, like, dude, like what you're not seeing because you're in this cult now. You're not seeing, you are saying woke things, white consciousness and solidarity. It's crazy. Here's another one. This is a guy who was commenting on Mikhail Olson. Mikhail Olson, if you don't know, is great. He's a Christian writer and podcaster, and I've had him on the show a couple times. I've interviewed him, and he's a strong Christian man who talks about why woke right is wrong. He's been a conservative his whole life, longtime conservative and Christian. I say this because there seems to be this attempt afoot to try and say that the only people who talk about woke right are like atheists and liberals, and that's not true. Most of the people I know who are calling it out are longtime conservative Christian men, and I've been interviewing and featuring many of them on my channel because it's like, hello, this narrative about who's noticing this is not true. And so Mikhail Olson pointed out, Elijah Schaefer's stupid our people thing. This is for our people. And he noted how woke this is. He goes, our people. Like I said, they want a race war. They want to convince everyone, just like the woke left, to view everything through the lens of skin color. That's what they want. This is what the woke right wants. This is what Elijah Schaefer and woke right influencers do. And so this guy says, every other race already does that, bro. So, and then he shows black people much more likely to view their race as being an integral part of their identity, much more likely than white people. And then Hispanic people also, Asian people also. Yeah, of course that's true. And so, but here's my point. Here's what I said to him. Yeah, because of woke ideology, duh. That's part of the reason. But I said, not every black or Asian person went along with woke. And you guys know this. There are people in the chat, very anti-woke, loud people, all things theology. Chris K-Dub was just here. I don't know if he's still here, but there are people who sometimes at great personal cost went against the tribe, went against the woke narrative, and who were saying, no, this is stupid. I don't find my identity in race or in racial collectivism. I'm an individualist. Many of them are Christians. I don't think that's a coincidence. Many of them are Christians, and they're like, my identity is in Christ, and it's not about this racial communism, racial Marxism stuff, right? So I said, not every Black or Asian person went along with woke. You know it. You know the ones who spoke loudly against racial collectivism, sometimes at great price. And somehow you still think the answer to woke ideology is more woke ideology, but for whites. I left woke for a reason, because racial collectivism, rather than individualism, racial collectivism is wrong. It's victim narrative and it's evil. It doesn't matter to me which race is at the top. It's wrong. I'm against woke because I'm against woke. And I said, it's like some of y'all were never against woke in the first place. You just wanted woke for white people. You were just like, woke, but make it white. Gross. No, I won't be a part of the ideology that almost destroyed this country. You're being incredibly stupid if you fall for this. And I said this in another tweet. I don't have this one pulled up right now, but we made so many gains in the last election. Trump continues to double his support, every time he runs, among Black people, among gay people, among all these different so-called marginalized identity or oppressed identity groups that the woke left tries to claim. The woke left tries to pull all these people into their ideology. We speak for you, Black people. We speak for you, gay people. We speak for you, women. We speak for you, trans people. Trump consistently is growing. He's grown his support among these groups, what does that mean? Woke is failing. It's failing. We have it on the back foot finally. And so you guys think now it's like the best time to like revive woke? You think now's the best time that we have it on the back foot, that it's starting to lose its hold over all these different identity groups? It's starting to lose its hold over them. We're starting to defeat it. And so the answer is to put more gasoline on it. The answer is to become very woke but for white. And what do you think is the result of that? What do you think is going to happen? The stuff Dom is talking about. He spent 4 years of his life trying to convince Black people that conservatives are not all those things. They're not racist. They're not fascist. They're not authoritarians. They're none of those things the woke left says. They're not against free speech or none of those things. And then you've got the woke right starting to gain influence and saying, yeah, we are. We all of you. That's what the right is. You know what they're trying to do? I saw them on X. They're trying to rebrand. They really don't like being called woke, which they are woke. They're anti-constitutionalists. They're anti-American. They're not conservatives. They're authoritarians. They don't like being correctly identified as woke, just like the woke left didn't like it either. They don't like being called that. And they're trying to rebrand. I saw one of the ones who pretends to be a Christian, masquerades as a Christian pastor, Joel Webbin, and he said, what did he call it? Oh, real right. He says, we're the real right. They're trying to rebrand, and they're trying to smear all of the right, all conservatives and all Christians with this crap. With these ideas that they're putting out there that like Black people are not American and Black people are not even human. That's what Corey Mailer, another one of the Christian pretenders, said. He's a co-host of the very popular Christian woke right podcast called Stone Choir, saying Black people are not human. And they're very happy to pretend that they share in the delusion of the woke left says all of the right is like this. And they're like, yeah, we are. All of the right is like this. That's what they say. And the woke left says, hey, everything you think you know about history is wrong in the history of America. And actually, America is a country built by white people for white people. And it's a white supremacist patriarchy. And the woke right says, yeah. The woke right says, yeah, everything we know about America is wrong. It is for white people. It's built for white people by white people. And it is a white supremacist patriarchy. They agree. They agree on this revisionist history. It's just crazy. Good Grief says, it's good that the right is checking itself on this stuff. The left certainly didn't check itself for a decade there. Thank you, Good Grief. Yes, there's a ton of people. Here's what's positive. Let me say this. Here's what's positive. There's a lot of people in the anti-woke movement who, shocker, are actually anti-woke. And they see this and they're like, wait a minute, this is just woke, but on the so-called right. This is just woke, recycled woke shit. And they're speaking against it and they're taking a lot of flack for it. People like Mikhail Olson, people like longtime conservative Christian men, Mikhail Olson, Gabriel Huddleston, who I just interviewed, Cody Lawrence, who I've interviewed. There's a whole list of them. And I'm going to be talking to more of these men. I've got an interview scheduled this week because I'm just like, look, let's get some actual Christian voices, conservative voices out there who can see this crap for what it is. And so I'm doing my little part to be like, hey, I want to talk to more of you guys that I'm just discovering because maybe other people don't know who you are either. Maybe, who knows? And let's have this conversation because I don't like this lie that they're putting forward about how like it's only liberals and atheists who are noticing the woke right. That's not true. And so there are people on the right, like Mikhail Olson, who are speaking against it and at great personal cost. And there are some disaffected liberals like myself who left the left, who are speaking against it, who turns out were being honest when they said they were leaving woke because it's wrong. I left woke because it's wrong. So I'm not going to just jump into it when it's marketed to me by Satan through a different, disguise. Like, oh no, it's actually, woke is actually Christian conservative now. No, it's not. And there are people like James Lindsay, disaffected liberal, yes, speaking against it. Colin Wright. There are lots of people who are getting a lot of flack for it. If you go in the comments of any of these people on X, it's constant bombardment by groypers, by the woke right people, by the sheep, by the bad fruit. It's just constant. I've got it in my comments too. I know Mikhail Olson has it in his. Cody Lawrence has it in his. And it's just the same old. They're just like the woke left. They just come in and they swarm and they just insult. And they just go like, what do they say to me? You're a Jew. You suck Jewish COCK. You are a Zionist. And I don't, what they mean by that appears to be very broad because I never talk about Israel. Don't really have many thoughts on it. But you're a Zionist. What else do they say? They called, you're FAGGOT. I don't like swearing. Okay, so I'm not going to say these words. I do swear, but I try not to do it on my videos. Many of you know that because there could be little ears in the room. Plus, not everybody appreciates hearing that, and it's not necessary. Anyway, they use a lot of swear words. They call me the CUNT word. They call me all kinds of words, and they just swarm. They're in all the comments. And the funniest word they call people like James Lindsay or I've seen them. I saw them call Colin Wright. This is grifter. Grifter. Do you not know what that word means? Or are you just a liar who's using it falsely? Because it's certainly not the popular position right now to talk about the woke right. It's not getting me clicks or followers. I'll tell you that. It doesn't get anybody clicks or followers or attention. It gets you negative attention and you get put on lists. I just got put on a list. So that's what's happening. If I were a grifter, if Colin Wright was a grifter, he would be jumping all over this woke right train because it's really popular right now. It will get you lots of clicks and lots of followers to be pushing this woke right nonsense. Here's a list I was put on. This is what I mean about how they're trying to I don't know, just they're trying to sidestep any criticism of woke right by saying, hey, it's only this one kind of person who criticizes woke right. And this person made a little Venn diagram here. It says that all of us who say woke right are Zionists. And then there's a whole list here they have. Joel Berry, Seth Dillon. Of course, those guys are from the Babylon Bee. I think those guys are spot on. James Lindsay's on here, of course. Constantine Kissin, I think they're spot on. I don't know anything about Andrew Gold or Andrew Doyle. I couldn't tell them apart. They have the same name. I don't know who they are. Dan Crenshaw, that name is familiar. I know him, but I don't know why. Eric Weinstein, I know who that is. Brett's brother. Richard something. I think I have that guy on my avoid list. I don't know why. But I don't know him otherwise. I think he's on my do not interact with list personally. Catherine Brodsky sounds familiar. I think I've shared some of her stuff. I don't know Yair, whoever that is. Michaela Peterson's on here, Jordan Peterson's daughter. Winston Marshall, who's married to Melissa Chen. He's from the band Mumford & Sons. They put him on here. Woke Distance, it's a great account that's been criticizing and taking down, doing devastating attacks on woke for years. And they put Woke Distance on here. It would make sense to me that if Woke Distance is actually against woke, they would be talking about and noticing that woke right is trending now. Colin Wright, of course, is on here. Neil Shenvi, who is a strong Christian man who I've interviewed in the past, who has had some of the best breakdowns of what woke is and how it infected the church. They have him on here. Bari Weiss is on here. Me, Keri Smith, is on here. Gad Sad is on here. And then Spiked. I don't know, is that Spiked Media? Anyway, what's funny about this list is some of these I don't know clearly. But of the ones that I do, I don't really know if they're Zionists or not. And some of them, I don't know if they criticize woke right or not. Actually, Gad Sad retweeted this and said, I've never, ever even used the phrase woke right. Like, why am I on this list? As for me, I just asked them, what do you mean by Zionist? Because I never talk about Israel. Like, I don't. And then the guy who did this list said, oh, well, if you go through your tweets, there's tons of stuff about how you want to support Israel at all costs. And I was like, no, there's not. Show me one of those tweets. Actually, what you'll find is the few times I've talked about Israel, I've said we should not be funding that war. So show me where. I'll wait. You go find the tweets. And then he says, well, actually, you have a lot of tweets about rising Jewish hatred of Jews and racism. And I'm like, yeah, I do. Because that's what I care about. Woke ideology. I hate it. I hate woke ideology. I'm compelled to speak against it because I was in it for 20 years and I am talking about woke right. So again, your definition of Zionist seems to be this anybody who says woke right. That's what it seems to be. Anyway, I thought this was of the names I do recognize on here, I guess pretty good company to be in. I like a lot of those folks. I think a lot of those folks are spot on, the Babylon Bee guys in particular. Of the ones that I know. Good Grief says, so if you don't think it's okay to hate Jews, then you're a Zionist. Cool. That's how they use the label. So that's why I'm always asking them, what do you mean by that? I don't know enough about what that word even means to say that's what I am. Somebody else in the comments told me, they said, well, actually, it just means that you believe that Israel has a right to exist. I'm like, well, okay, I do. So I guess I am a Zionist. I don't know. And then the guy who made the chart came in and goes, no, it means that you tweet a lot about rising hatred towards Jews. Okay. Yeah, you tweet about Jewish hate and I can't stand it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Anyway, somebody says, I don't care for Crenshaw. Remind me who Crenshaw is. I know his name is familiar. Is he eye patch guy? I have to look him up. Oh yeah, he's eye patch guy. I unfollowed him at some point because I thought he was way off about something. Anyway, I don't have enough information to have an opinion on him. But yes, eye patch McCain. I do remember Alex Stein giving him a bit of hell. Rosa says, but there is rising hatred towards Jews. LOL. Yeah, there is. That's why, of course, that's why I'm talking about it. Oh, and the person also said, why I also called you Zionist because you don't ever criticize APEC or IPEC or whatever. It's the it's that that group, that lobbyist group for the state of Israel or something. I don't. Yeah. Okay. So you're calling me a Zionist because I'm not interested in and don't talk about the things that you're interested in. You talk about, but that's not what a Zionist is. Like, there's a lot of people then who don't talk about that topic that you like to talk about. That doesn't make one a Zionist. We are motivated and interested in different things. And I am in large part, it's no secret for anyone who's followed Deprogrammed or followed my old show or anything for the past 8 years and my writing, because I spent 20 years in the woke cult. Once I left it, once I could see it for what it was, which was a long process leaving it, I have felt compelled to talk about it because it's destroying souls. It's destroying our country. And I think it is a dark pit. I think it is an abyss. And maybe one day I won't feel a need to speak about it. But so far, that day hasn't come. I did think that after we won, like I said, we had all this cultural momentum. We've got woke on the back foot. We successfully got Trump elected. All of us, a broad coalition. And like I said, you see increasing percentages of Black people, of women, of gay people, all these different so-called identity groups that the woke left tries to cannibalize and use and market to. We see them voting for Trump. He keeps getting increasing numbers of them, which to me is a positive sign that woke is losing. And so I did think after Trump won this time, like, the war's not over, but at least we struck this blow. At least it seems that woke is becoming uncool finally, right? And I was thinking, maybe I won't feel compelled to talk about woke ideology as much anymore, and I can open the antique store I want to open. And I can just focus more on the stuff that I do in my real life, offline, like renovating our house and going to, like, I'm in the community service club, this community service club now in my little town. It's just cool. And maybe I could just do that and help with my husband's music more. And maybe one day I'm going to wake up and be like, you know what? God's like, I want you to do this other thing instead. You don't have to talk about this. But it hasn't come yet. And now I'm starting to be like, no, like, I don't want woke right to become ascendant. I don't. Like, can we please not do this again? We have woke on the back foot. Like, please. On a positive note, like Good Grief said, at least there are conservatives like Mikhail Olson, like K-Dub, like Samuel Say, they're like Cody Lawrence. There are conservative Christians who are speaking against woke right. And so maybe, unlike the woke left, it will be constrained and it won't become huge and it won't have some sort of devastating impact. That's what I'm hoping. I think conservatives, I do think they're more on their toes. They're more aware than the liberals were. I do think they're more discerning as a group. And I know liberals will get mad hearing that, but I think they are. And I think we have the benefit of seeing what woke did to the left and how the left, they didn't constrain their extremists, their woke extremists. They let woke come in and dominate them and cannibalize them and brainwash them and almost destroy our country. They made celebrities out of the crazy woke people. They made influencers out of them. They made Ibram X. Kendi out of them, and pushed it on the country. Like, they elevated their psychopaths. And I have a modicum of hope that conservatives are not going to let that happen. That conservatives are going to say, like, no, Nick Fuentes did not vote for Trump. He told his followers not to vote for Trump. He is not MAGA. He is questionable narrative at best, and we will not be smeared by being associated with him. I have that hope. So we'll see. We're going to see what happens. Yes, Good Grief says conservatives are the more rational group now. They are. They are. Keri, I kept looking to see if you were going to have a live, but nothing was posted. YouTube hiding it? Oh, I don't know. I'll have to go and check. John Thomas, I'm sorry about that. I know that YouTube is still like, they seem to have relaxed some of their controls on what we can say about COVID. Some. I still get videos every once in a while that they flag, but I think they still do all the algorithm stuff that they do to try and push down certain channels. So I wouldn't be surprised if they hit it. Andrew Knapp for $5. Thank you, Andrew Knapp, for supporting Deprogrammed. Andrew says, power corrupts, and I feel like the right just got a fresh taste of power. Yes. I guess now we get to see the wheat and the tares. Oh my gosh. You're so... I love hanging out with you guys. I do, because it's so encouraging when if you spend a lot of time on X and you see all the kinds of woke right or woke left crap that I see in my comments. It's so nice to see people like, yes, there are a lot of discerning people out there, and you see it. It is power. I've covered this before, and I'm trying to write a piece about it. The woke right, they put power at the center of their ideology as well, just like the woke left does. They put power at like the top of their hierarchy. So we've got these woke right, so-called Christian influencers now, like CJ Engel and his partner. Gosh, what's that guy's name? His partner was just on Tucker Carlson. And they're these self-proclaimed, they call themselves Christian nationalists. I also think part of what the woke right is doing is they're trying to smear Christians and specifically Christian nationalism. They're trying to paint Christian nationalism as ethno-nationalism, as white supremacy. Like they, just like the woke left, they're trying to pretend that Christian nationalism is about white supremacy or something. Anyway, this guy, CJ Engel, I wrote about this on X, but I think I'm trying to write a piece about it. He did this series of tweets where he was like, we, meaning Christians, like, he's like, we need to become more Machiavellian to gain power. We need to become more manipulative and dishonest like the left to gain power. It's very much power at any cost. Power by any means necessary, just like the left. And there's something fascinating about that to me. And again, another similarity with the woke left. It's sort of power by any means necessary. Skillet Actual, what's up, Skillet, for $2 says, not woke right, real woke right. They're trying to rebrand and say, this is real right, real woke right. Legalize adulthood for $50. Thank you for the generous super chat. Legalize adulthood. Coming in late, this whole thing is giving me divided feelings. I don't like the behavior of either side, but there does seem to be a qualitative difference in the way each side is supporting the two persons. I don't know if there's a difference. Let me think about what you said. A qualitative difference in the way each side's supporting. I don't know much of that difference. I see, so I didn't point it out, but in the Give, Send, Go for Shiloh Hendrix, for the white woman, there were also racist comments and racist names, just like in the one that I did show for Karmelo Anthony, the black murderer. There were racist names and racist comments. And so that seems very similar to me. You got people donating and saying, kill all white people, and you got people donating and saying, kill black people. It's like this, that seems kind of similar. The way some people are promoting both of them seems similar. Like, do this for our people, give money for our race, right? Like, what? No. But it does give me divided feelings. This is something we agree on. Legalize adulthood. Because it is true that I don't know if the left was trying to cancel her or not. That's what I was told. I didn't see all those posts. I just saw this break when her Give, Send, Go broke. But she said they were trying to cancel her, that video had gone viral and she was getting all kinds of harassment and stuff. And I absolutely disagree with that. just because she says that word, that racial slur or what have you. I'm so tired of the woke left trying to dox people and shame them and cancel them and threaten them, even if it's for them, misbehaving in that moment or not being the best version of themselves. It's wrong. It's wrong to turn her into a celebrity for the purposes of making a martyr, a victim of her. It's wrong to do that to someone. So obviously I would agree with anybody who thinks that, because I think that. And I also think the word itself, I agree with people who say, well, why are racist slurs against white people not treated the same as racist slurs against black people or Jews or what have you? I absolutely agree with that. I think it's stupid. I think it's a power play. That they have made, the woke left made certain racist terms taboo, which again, you see the woke left and the woke right working hand in hand. They made them taboo, which preserved their power. There's power again, right? It preserved the power of those words. They made these words like sacred. They want to ensure the word is always powerful, that it's always imbued with racism, that it's never just brushed off. And so the word has all that power, and then you got people on the right who see that and are like, yeah, that's why I'm going to use it. Oh, okay, great. And they work hand in hand. My thing is, I just try not to say any of those words anyway. Like, I don't have a desire. Like, I will occasionally say the B word about women. I try not to. I've occasionally done that, but I don't like foul words anyway, or crass. Like, if I do use them, I found that it has more impact because I don't usually use them. So then it's like, oh, like even if I use the F-U-C-K word, sometimes people are like, what? Like, you must be really upset. So those words are just overused in our society by everyone, I think. That's what I think about it. But yeah, I agree. That word should not be some sacred, like, oh, you said it, you're the worst person in the world. No, it's not. That word is used all the time in our culture and rap and all kinds of things. Like, give me a break. Legalize adulthood gifted 20 memberships. We got 40 memberships today. Thank you so much. If you got one of those, thank Legalize Adulthood. I appreciate it. Thank you for supporting the channel. Your average patriot nerd for $5 says, I've been listening for a bit today, and all I have to say is keep up the fight, Keri, with the Trump. Yes. I have to tell you, since we're winding down, I'll share this with you. I mentioned that I had a lot of leftists piling on me yesterday, and it was because there's this group. I'm in a lot of different groups on Facebook because I don't want to see too much political stuff, because I see so much of it on X. And if I want to see what's going on culturally in the moment or politically or whatever, I go to X. But on Facebook, when I log in, I want to see positive, cool, joyful things. And so I'm in like 100, 200 groups of things like, this is a good tip, by the way, if you're on Facebook. I'm in a bunch of groups like taxidermy, bad taxidermy, which is really funny group. What snake is this? Where people post pictures of snake. What spider is this? Antique groups, house renovation groups, maximalist furnishings group, which is fun. Furniture flipping. I'm in a bunch of vintage photograph groups, and they have them for different decades. Like, you can join, like, the 1920s pictures, cool pictures from the 20s or whatever, cool pictures from the 50s, stuff like that. I'm in a bunch of Christmas groups. I'm in some table setting groups where people, oh my gosh, those groups are so fun. I also like people's excitement, so I like to see what they're doing. And there's people in these groups who they just all like compete with one another about having the best table settings for different holidays. And then they get political once in a while. Politics even tries to invade those groups. Like, woke shit invades those groups, and they get in big fights over it. And you're like, what is happening? Anyway, one of the groups I'm in, it's a very popular group. There's millions of members. It's called the Dull Men's Club. And originally, it started out as a group of men who would post really dull posts, and it's so funny because of how dull they are. So it's posts about, you know, being upset that this milk has this percentage of whatever. Like, it's just the most, my car didn't start today. Here's a picture of my speedometer. Like, that just the most dull thing you could say. My wife has started sewing different colors on the top of my socks so that we don't mismatch them anymore. Posts like this, like really boring, dull posts. And it's funny because I guess the macro of it, of just like a group of boring men posting. Anyway, I'm in this group, and it has recently been, first of all, there's a lot of women who joined just to laugh like me, but now there's women who post all the time. I'm like, I didn't join this to see women posting. This was a dull men's group, but now there's all these women who do post, and now there's this woke infiltration. And so yesterday, this thing blew up because there was this post where everyone was just piling on. All these woke people were just anti-Trump this, and America sucks, and Trump is a fascist dictator, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, this is not a dull post. This is not a funny post. So I just jumped in and I was like, well, if you guys are just going to take pot shots, I'm just going to post Trump memes. So I was posting the fight, fight, fight memes. I was just like, that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to engage like you guys. I'm just going to post memes. That's it. I'm not going to talk to you. And so in doing so, it got them, all the woke people, really riled. That's why I guess you could say it wasn't my best self memeing and trolling them, because it invited all of their ire, where they're like, you maggot, you scum. And then they said, you're probably the type who supports Shiloh Hendrix. Well, no, but okay. John says, women seem to hate men-only spaces. Yeah, there's a ton of women in there, and it's like they have this real entitlement to being able to post and just change the whole intent of the group. And sort of like, you should be happy they even let us in the group so we could laugh at their posts, like, and be part of the audience here. Like, why do you have to be on the stage? Good Grief says, my sign painting group got shut down by woke people. What? Yeah. My PMDD group got shut down by thems. They go into every group they can, like a cult. They try and take over every group. So a Trump centerpiece at Thanksgiving is verboten. Oh yeah, let me tell you, Kevin Anderson, one day I might cover the wars that were happening in the table setting group. They got so upset because some people decided to do table settings for the inauguration. That's what happened. And I have all these screenshots because I might do a video about it. But back in January, they did tables. It was a war where all these woke people were offended. Like, how dare you do a patriotic table setting theme? We didn't approve. We should only have a list of approved holidays. They were so mad that anybody was joyful and excited about the inauguration and did a presidential table setting, and I like split the group, and just their negativity just sort of, I was like, are you for real? This group is just about table settings. Like, if you don't like the inauguration one, just shut up. Who cares? John Bertram says, holy moly, Keri, you're obsessed. You're my only internet drug. Well, obsessed. Well, it's just that I wouldn't say I'm obsessed with all these different groups, but I do like different rabbit holes. And some of you, I've seen people say that Facebook is just all negativity. This will change your feed, I'll tell you, if you join a bunch of fun groups, and you'll just see all kinds of interesting stuff. So I think it was a good thing to do. Patriotic table setting, you not see. Yeah, exactly. Hey, V. Allen, knitters versus table setters. I know. It's just so sad to see it infiltrate hobby groups and humor groups and stuff. Oh, that's another kind of group I'm in on Facebook. There's a bunch of meme groups, which are fun. There's like a bunch of different kinds of religious meme. Like, I'm in a Catholic meme group, and I'm in a Jewish meme group, and Muslim meme group. And I don't even get all the humor. I don't get some of the Muslim jokes. I don't get some of the Jewish jokes or the Catholic jokes, but it's just I'm in one called like Christian family memes or jokes, and it's just kind of cool to see all these different kinds of posts that are not typically not political. Table setting becomes a war. It did. I'll have to. Okay, I've decided. I'm going to do an episode about it. We'll do an episode because you won't believe it. You won't believe the table setting wars. Let me see if I have to think. Oh, I do. More people think earlier for $9.99. Thank you, Michael. Been watching the show after hours. Nice to catch one live. Well, good to have you here live. It's a nice rainy day here in Texas. If you are local, by the way, I know some of you are. My husband has a show tonight in Georgetown at MCO. That's going to be fun, and I'm going to try and be there for that one. So maybe I'll see some of you folks. MCO is always a fun venue. John Thomas for $10. Keri, you've had a Calvinist, Odin, and others. Perhaps you would have a confessional Lutheran like LCMS, WELS, Dr. Jordan B. Cooper, or Dr. Brian Wolfmuller. Both are excellent at explaining Lutheranism. Oh, you know what? I have had a Lutheran. My friend, what's her new company name? It used to be called Murder Knits, but now she has a new name. Somebody in the chat will tell me. But I have an interview with. Wait a minute, I'm confusing her. She's not the Lutheran, or is she? Don't judge me. All the different denominations, I get them so confused. Like I don't know enough about them all. So I will confuse Lutheran for Episcopalian, which is probably a huge insult. And I will confuse that for Orthodox, which I know is a huge insult, I'm sure. But I just know I've interviewed a Lutheran, and I'll take note of these. Somebody else just recommended Dr. Jordan B. Cooper. So that's the second time I've heard that. Thank you. I appreciate it, dude. Keri, did you feel the earthquake? 5.4 mag. Thank you for the super chat. John Thomas. No, I didn't even know there was one. No, we've just had crazy storms. Hail. We've had hail here in Texas. We've had tornadoes and just crazy thunder. And it's good, though. All the rain is good. It's just kind of hectic storms. Tabitha. Yes. Is her company name still Murder Knits? Correct me. I thought she renamed it. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, she's Lutheran. Okay, folks. I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you for being here today. Thanks for being patient with me. And also especially if you disagree or you're not sure what you think yet about this whole like woke right stuff. I appreciate you hearing me out and listening to what I think I'm seeing come, bubbling up. And I just appreciate you guys being so consistent in the chat. Like I said, very discerning. I think I have some of the most wise people online in the chat, and I love that. I watch some other kinds of shows, and it's not always like this, And some people, like, their whole chat is just gross, degenerate nonsense, nihilism, hedonism, and bullshit. And I can appreciate some of that stuff when it's humor, but when that's all it is and it's not humor and it's just like people rolling around in their own poop, like I don't like that. And I'm so grateful. I'm like, well, my chat's always giving me great quotes and things to read, and I'm really grateful for this community. So thanks. I disagree. This is SG0. Keep your eyes open for sure. Wisdom comes from God's word. Yes. Kendra, you can't overstate that enough. I know it sounds simplistic. If you're a non-believer and you put up with me, I know a lot of these things sound simplistic or cliche, but it actually is. Like, I find myself turning to scripture more and more to try and understand what's happening around me, and it doesn't miss. So many of the warnings, it's like they're still applicable today because they're about human nature. So that's your guidebook, in my opinion. Okay, Godspeed, got to roll out. Me too, I got to go. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you on Wednesday. Take care. Try and be your best self, right? Okay. Outro. Here we go.